What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is The Real Deal with Casey and Jason, where we talk real life, real experiences, and occasionally real estate. Jason, what's up, dude? We got a special guest in the studio. I'm going to let Jason introduce. Super excited about this episode because it ties in. It's going to tie in so many ways to the things we've been talking about. So really looking forward to it. Jason, why don't you introduce our guest here?
Yeah, we got my buddy Dean Whetham from Titus Sports Academy. I've known Dean for, I don't know, probably going on 10 years after my stint at Titus, and by my accounts, he's the man as far as, just being a great guy in general, and he absolutely knows, in my opinion, anything and everything there is to know about sports performance. So I'll give it to you, Dean, if you want to introduce yourself, man. But thank you for being here.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm super excited to be here. It's, my name is Dean Whetham. I am the regional manager over at Titus Sports Academy, a strength and conditioning coach. And, at least as far as my background, I've been in strength and conditioning for about 17 years now. So seen
I didn't know that.
different generations kind of work through the facility, and I've been blessed to have great people, guys like Jason, that have come through and not only coached with us but trained with us as well. So I'm just super ecstatic to be here, and hopefully I can provide some insight in some areas, and not get too mad about other things. But we'll see where the day takes us.
Yeah, this is awesome. This one might go, guys, buckle up, because this one might go a while. We were just chatting before we started recording, and I'm like, man, we got so many questions for Dean and just his insight here. So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the mission? Titus trains athletes. Mm-hmm. That's the primary thing. People that are in, from what ages, I guess, would you say?
Honestly, we say from 9 to 99, and in reality, it starts even in closer to 4, 5, and 6. With the training program itself is something that will change throughout time. I know it's something that we touched on a little bit, but with the myths and the things that throughout fitness in general, of what age is the proper age to get started. Early on to kind of simplify it, it's trying to make sure you keep it fun, keep it uplifting, keep it something that's a positive environment for the youth. So they're developing the way that not only that they should, but the way that they could really take off and grasp a hold of not sports in general, but right, the fitness side of things, and keeping that healthy lifestyle, and kind of keeping insurance companies at bay the later on in life. And,
definitely.
Just kind of instilling some of the things that can hopefully propel them forward. And that's I don't want to talk too much in circles, but
dude, go for it.
It's when you get started, let's say it's about 4 to 6 years old, and people say, that might be a little bit too young to get training. Well, I would ask them if they carry a broom around the house, if they're doing certain chores. Resistance is a pencil is resistance. If they're swimming, water is resistance. So
it's all relative.
It really is. It really is, and you're trying to keep it fun. You're trying to introduce these movements, and in reality, early on, it's the movement mechanics that is the focus, and keeping it fun. There's various ways that we can incorporate some speed and agility work, or even resistance, where you're focused on how do they move, not how much weight do they move.
And that's one thing that I can attest to. Not to speak about anything else, but I have experience with Dean and with Titus, and they do a wonderful job in making sure that before the person, the athlete, whoever progresses to that next level, that they know that their body is moving the right way. And I don't want to speak for you, Dean, but I think that's a foundational aspect of Titus, making sure that the body is moving the right way before you do any of that crazy weight, whether you're 5 or 50.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important too. So it's functional, right? It's not like Titus specializes in training athletes, high level athletes, right, all the way up to professional athletes, but it's also functional the stuff you're teaching for the everyday person.
Yeah,
as well.
I mean, we have an adult. Dean's there every Monday, and another thing I'll say about Dean, I feel like I'm just going to gush about you this whole podcast. Man. I've so many people in my life, like I heard Nick say it earlier, so many people in my life know about you just because he's such a model of consistency, and I think that's part of what Titus attracts, because that's what you put out there. You put out, you're there every, I see you every Monday because that's when I'm there, but Dean's one of those guys that is always early. He's always, expecting the most out of people, and he gets the most out of people. And, I think that translates a lot into the client base that you guys get, because that as an organization, that's what you guys model. But kind of going back to what we were talking about, you guys train and everyday people like me in an adult fitness class too. It's not just athletes,
right?
Not just somebody who's participating in a sport, should I say?
Right, correct. Because the way that we see it ultimately is, if you have a body, you're an athlete,
right?
Yep. So it's like the training programming definitely changes. We're not out there focused on our 3-point starts and our 40-yard sprint time, but we still want to jump, we still want to move, we still want to take a balanced approach into our training. So from day to day, it's something new, it's something fresh, and you may be doing the same exercises that that a 6-year-old or a 16-year-old may do, even at 66. It's just, again, the focus is different, and but at the end of the day, that's a lot of our goal, or a lot of what we say is, if you have a body, you're an athlete.
Yeah,
right?
like that.
And we need to train that way. It's not something where we eclipse a certain age and then all of a sudden we have to scale it back. We've got to go to hot yoga. We've got no disrespect to those doing hot yoga, of course,
right.
But we say strength training is the entree. When you get your sides, you can do the hot yoga or whatever that may be, or the stretch plexes, or all of the things that kind of pop up in the white hot zone of the fitness realm. But ultimately to make sure that we are, again, moving in the right direction when it comes to our own personal fitness is, we've got to mix in the strength training, 2 to 3 times a week, ideally, to make sure that we're kind of setting ourselves up for the future and being around for a long time, and avoiding the doctors and the big pharma medications that they will inevitably kind of rain down on you as recommendations, and then follow that up with, oh, by the way, you can never get off of this again. So it's kind of our goal overall is to help program, whether it be our youth fitness training, our champions program, which is our young training program, to our speed strength training, which is our youngsters, our elementary, middle school, high school, our advanced group, which is our college athletes and pro athletes, and then when we get into the adult fitness realm as well, the programming itself, or the principles behind our programming, are going to remain the same throughout. But going back to your original topic, we started in Tallahassee, Florida, as a high level. So it was, it was the Major League Baseball, your NFL, your Olympic level skier, snowboarder, your Olympic athletes.
Right.
And, and then it's kind of went, hey, we can kind of take the principles and theories that we have and kind of just work that way down through the ages and help these athletes develop. It was, for a long time, it was, you get to college and now you have a strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, that was my experience.
Yeah. Mine too.
Yeah.
So, it's like, but why? If we can help these athletes develop a lot earlier on in their life cycle, then by the time they get to college, now they're ready to kind of take it to that next level, and they're not learning everything, from the strength coach right there day one. It's more of like, we have a background, we've built that blueprint, now let's, after that foundation is there, now we can, really take off and take it to the next level.
I love that, because I just think back to my experience. I mean, me and Jason are from Bow Manor High School, so we got
right down the road. D knows all. We talk about it.
Yeah, we're talking hometown. town, like we had a weight room.
Yeah.
But it was big enough for maybe
size of this room.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like 10, 15 kids in there was kind of a lot.
It was, yeah.
But that was and we had good coaches that knew what they were doing, but it was
and had the best interest for us and wanted to help us the whole deal. That was never an issue.
No, not at all. But it was it wasn't really because of us, I'll put the responsibility on us for being really consistent with that. It was like, well, we worked out in the summer in the mornings to get ready for football, and then baseball really didn't have any training associated with it. Then I got to Cecil, was kind of all over the place. I'd lifted weights, but I didn't really know what I was doing.
There was really no program.
There was no program. And then I went to Youngstown, and then it was like, all right, your ass is in here at 5 o'clock, 4 days a week. We're doing, it was a program, and I was on it. But then afterwards, and this is something really important, is you talked about kids beforehand, but then also people later in life, because when I got done at Youngstown, I was like, I'm not training for anything anymore, and I really took the whole dad bod thing to heart. And I didn't do anything for a while, and then I had to get back into it. So the fact that you say if you have a body, you are an athlete, that's important for people to identify and just understand that you get this body, you get one body in your life.
That's it.
So start off early, and don't think of it like strength training too. I think there's a misconception. People hear strength training, they think like bodybuilder lifting weights, but it's so much more than that. So I'd love to hear that you guys tie that in from an early age and a later age as well.
Yeah, and and the way that we going back to the consistency approach is like that. I mean, that's it. That's that's where it all starts and ends. Is if you're consistent in your movements, then we are going to feel better. We're going to look in the mirror and see things, the results that we're looking for. But everyday movements, if we're bringing in the groceries, or we're pulling a kid out of the car seat, or it snows, or it's the fall and we're raking leaves, these are all athletic movements. These are all ways where if we get a heavy snowfall and it's that heavy wet snow that's turning over into ice, and we don't have a snowblower, how really within your driveway, you may squat 300 times. Right. And we're talking about weight transfer movements where we're putting more pressure on one side than the other. So, if that's going to create a back pain, or, worst case scenario, we slip a disc, that again, we're in and out of that, the medical tent per se, if we were using the football term, but, we're at the doctor's office, and then, they're prescribing painkillers, and, it's going to affect the way that, your everyday life goes on, and it's going, hey, from snow, like, if we could have done something to be a little bit more proactive, could we have created the after effects where, we go, hey, we're going to squat today, and then we're going to do some compound movements where we're focused on moving the body in a way where we're bending and extending, whether that be, with a clean pull of some sort, or some sort of shoulder shrug, but that we start from a bent knee position, then we have basically taking that shoveling of the snow and put it in a position where it doesn't feel like it. So, we still are going to be sore. It's not something where all of a sudden, you may do 10 to 12 squats in a workout where now I'm asking you to do 40, and we're asking you to do it on an angle, and there's ice, and, our feet are not as consistent as they would be when we're standing on solid ground because we're slipping and falling. But, we're kind of working on making sure the after effects don't happen. Where we have to go see a doctor, or we're laid up so we don't get that time with our kids. And the snow is just, obviously we're in the winter and it's 4.5 degrees outside.
I think that's super important to know that you guys are doing those things that can hopefully prevent people from injury in those everyday activities that we always hear about. I mean, we always hear about the person that, tripped and whatever age they are, tripped and fell, and they slipped a disc, or they got a knee issue or whatever.
Right. Well, a lot of people, I mean, especially older people, die shoveling snow because their hearts, they're not conditioning them, they're cardiovascular, right? So, I mean, that's just another thing. But I like the fact too that you guys, I don't want to say you guys, the fact that you have mentioned a couple times the importance of keeping people off of, pain medicine.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we've seen, I mean, it's not just a local problem here. It's a problem all over that, medicines get prescribed and we've seen it ruin lives, around here and everywhere. So the fact that you have, part of what you do is a mission to kind of keep people healthy without needing to take something.
Very preventative.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's a goal. We don't want that again when we go to the pharmaceutical crutch. Because once we kind of get accustomed to something like that, it becomes something in the back of our mind. Whether it is an addictive prescription drug or if it is your Tylenols, but it's always relying on that one thing.
It becomes like getting your coffee in the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I told a story on the podcast a couple episodes ago that I went to the doctor for the first time in probably 10 years to get a checkup because I had heartburn so bad that I was taking over-the-counter medicine like 3 times a day after every meal and still didn't help. And the doctor's like, dude, you're 248 pounds. You got to lose some weight. So when I started, I dropped like 20 pounds that next year. I don't need heartburn medicine anymore. So I'm thinking, and this is how a lot of people are, you're thinking that the fix is in a pill that the doctor's going to give you, but the fix is really in your health.
You're in full control of that.
Right.
Yeah, it's just crazy how much better.
I shouldn't say full control. There are some other factors that you can't control, but
Sure.
But as far
set
as
yourself up for success.
Right. Yeah, the physical activity aspect, provided you're able to do those things, is available to you.
Mm-hmm.
I know, Jason, you got some good questions.
Yeah.
That I want you to kind of
For sure.
Maybe fire away a couple of these because we were already getting into some of them before we started recording, and
so I kind of wanted to take the angle of you see a lot of people in general.
Mm-hmm.
I was a high school football coach for 10 years, and we always had a good group of athletes, and we have had athletes that have gone to play college football. I was a football coach. I don't know if I just said football or not, but that's what I coached. And so from your perspective, over the course of those 17 years, you've seen lots of people. Just curious if you could kind of drill into anything that separates those good athletes from the great athletes, because I know you guys have had professional athletes in your organization.
Sure, and hopefully some more coming up. But we've been lucky enough to train a lot of different men, women, children, that have really won. To answer the original question, is really took charge of their own agenda.
Right.
It's no matter what, when the weight room or inside of the facility, it will not pay you back unless you pay it forward while you're in there.
I'm glad I'm glad you said that.
That is something that it will. Some of the teachings that we try to talk about day to day is, and working with kids, you communicate with them and hopefully at their level, and hopefully I've gotten through to a couple of them, but I say, hey, you could show up to English class and you have a test and you didn't prepare for it, and you're using your resources of that person's paper next to you, and you end up getting a B+, getting an A, and you don't get caught quote unquote cheating, right? In the weight room, in the facility, that'll never happen.
Doesn't apply.
You will never be rewarded for the work that you didn't put in.
Right.
And that's what we see with a lot of the elite level athletes is they take a lot of pride in every single rep, in every single movement that they do, and they start to feel certain things. Mm-hmm. We've got a couple of guys that play in the NFL that will focus on certain movements, if that is some sprints or really working on their acceleration, where they'll take 2 steps and pull up and go, it didn't feel right. That
wasn't going to be a good rep.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, and we go, okay, you know what? Let's run it back. Let's do it again. Let's, where needed, we'll increase complexity or create a progression, and then where needed, we'll also create a regression and go, okay, maybe we're trying to do too much that we're overthinking it, and let's keep it simple and get these guys kind of set up for the mini camp or whatever that they're getting ready to go to. But they're so supremely focused on the details, I could write on the board, hey, 20 jumping jacks, and these guys are. No, I don't do that. Please, never.
I'm going to cut Dean off real quick.
Listen, burpees and jumping jacks are something we don't do.
I'm going to cut him off real quick. He said writing on the board. This man's handwriting, dude. That is one thing. It's unbelievable. When we walk in on Monday mornings, and this guy, or Wednesdays, because I think you write on the board all the time. I'm like, bro, his handwriting is so perfect, so legit. I'm like, this guy takes pride in even the way that he writes the workouts on a board, and I know that for a fact. So I'll keep going, but I had to mention it.
To build off of that, one of the things that we talk about is how you do anything is how you do everything, which is something that still pertains to some of these elite level athletes that they fully understand that there's no on-off switch, right? When they're there to train, they're leaving whatever stressors from the outside world outside of the door, because they know that they need to focus on the here and now, and not thinking about what's going to happen, whether that be 2 hours from now or 2 weeks from now. That they're there to put the work in, and they'll do it. And again, we've been lucky enough with a lot of stellar athletes that would have been elite level athletes if they picked up water polo. But then, elite level athletes that really had to work at it, they didn't come in with the highest praise or the best genetic predisposition where, mom or dad may have been an elite level athlete of some sort, but, they just come in with the mindset of, okay, now that we're here, I'm going to give you my all. So the expectation from me is, that I'm going to give them my all as well, right back at them. Right. So, that's some of the main differences.
Taking care of, I forget how you phrased it at the beginning, taking care of their own agenda, or making sure that they're in charge, right, of their own lives there, and not just being inconsistent. Those guys are highly motivated. They are consistent, all the time, guys or girls.
Well, and that's one of our core values on the commemorative cup that I presented with Dean right before this started. Nations Lending Cup with our core values, but one of the core values is take 100% responsibility.
Yeah,
and it's so true. Like, that athlete has to take. It's not like they're going to follow your program, but they have to take responsibility for the work and effort that they put into that.
So what you're saying is that's not necessarily a physical tool. That's a mental tool.
Oh, 100%.
That's a mental tool 100%. That really separates those good and great athletes.
Oh, for sure.
And a part of that, again, showing up. I read. Brought him up last week. Matt Chenard, the highly dedicated cold plunge guy.
Yeah.
He puts out different quotes during the week, and one of them was an imperfect program done consistently will provide you with better results than a perfect program done inconsistently. Just basically saying, if you show up, you're going to have better results than if you do something great for one day and then we don't see you for a month.
Correct.
All those men and women are showing up all the time.
Correct. And now I don't know who the strength coach was. I don't remember offhand, so I apologize. But this was, I think it was last week as well. He put, regular athletes do supersets with the superset. One word. Elite athletes do super.
That's good.
Sets.
Yeah, that's
right?
good. Yeah.
Because every single rep, every single set is done, with a passion, with a purpose, which is, one of the things that we talk about is while you're here, like, let's do it.
You're already here.
Whatever's holding you back, like, let that go. And, don't come in here and be cute. Like, be ready to be criticized and be ready for us to be critical of those movements, and do it at 100%. Because that's what's going to take you to that next level when you go, you know what? I really can do this. You know, my physical traits may not be what that other person who may squat 500 and, you know, run a 4.4, but when it comes to changing direction, that may be our strong suit. And, you know, that happens in sports a whole lot more than just running 40 yards straight on. And there's never been a deadlifting competition in the middle of, you know, a baseball game.
breaks out in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Let's tie.
That's a good thing to keep in my mind. I like that.
Yeah, and that's it. That's what he said. You know, all the time. I go, I don't need you to be the best weightlifter of all time. Yeah. You know, that's a sport within itself. You know, I need you to have transferable movements at 100%. So when you get out on the court, on the field, you know, you're able to mimic these movements and you do so just a little bit faster. That changes the bang bang plays that may have negatively affected you prior, and now they positively affect you. So, cool. You know, there's not this huge measurable difference where all of a sudden, you know, you're playing basketball and it takes you 3 steps to get down the court. But if we can be on the positive side of these bang bang plays, or when you're getting to the ball, or, you know, that loose ball foul turns into you getting the ball first and them fouling you, you know, you're changing the trajectory of an individual game, and then, you know, could be long term, hopefully changing the trajectory of a season.
I love that. So these little things that add up in just very small ways. I just posted something, I think it was yesterday. So my part of my fitness journey right now, I'm tracking like body fat percentage and muscle fat percentage, or muscle percentage. And I posted this graph, and it's only been 5 weeks, but like it's this real slow, gradual separation, right? Losing body fat, gaining muscle. But this all ties in, you know, so directly. My question is, how do you measure for like some of these elite athletes? What do you measure to kind of say like, hey, here's where you need help, or here's where we're going to make progress, and how do you measure that progress for them?
So it really is dependent on the individual, you know, and where they are kind of within their training program. Well, you know, we'll pull it back. So if they just come to me, it's the off season, it would be different from a collegiate volleyball player to maybe an athlete that's in the NFL, where they're working on, okay, we got some nicks, we got some things that we have going on. But we look at it, if it's measured, it matters. Yeah. You know, so for the volleyball player, let's take a look at where our vertical jump is right now. Let's find out where our vertical jump is compared to our broad jump. You know, from there, are we more of a posterior weakness? Is there an anterior weakness? You know, I'm using volleyball as a reference, but, you know, they're jumping vertically all of the time, right? But that first step or that reaction speed is them typically moving forward or in a broad jump type of movement. You know, so if we're weak there, then, you know, we're not getting the most out of our individual ability when we're out on the court. Yeah. So, you know, we go, okay, we need to work on some more of the horizontal velocity or that power through that first step, because, you know, vertically we're okay, right? You know, it's never like, all right, we're great. You know, you can jump 40 inches, but, you know, you're also 2% body fat. So, you know, in situations like that, maybe your fat is going to act as shock absorbers in our joints. So if we are 110-pound girl and we have a 40-inch vertical, well, by the time you land, that's 2 to 3 times your body weight that's coming down on those joints. So, you know, we need those shock absorbers to a degree. Now, you know, I'm not saying, hey, you know, let's go out and just crush, you know, Takis and Starbursts until like you can't stand up anymore. But, you know, you're looking at ways where we can start to go, okay, how do we increase levels of certain things that may be a weakness right now, or we may have gradually increased this weakness based off of what we've been doing, you know, through a season, or, you know, based off of what our coach or whoever else may be kind of pressuring us to get to
work on.
Yes. So, and when it comes to more of the guys in the NFL or in Major League Baseball, theirs is really, we may measure certain things differently. You know, not necessarily what is our last time we threw a fastball, but what is our internal external rotation currently? Where was it prior to the season? And then how do we make sure that we're focused on the certain things that's going to help get us back to the point where our measurables, both internally and externally, are at the point that what science tells us is conducive towards long-term health. Because as we lose some of those rotation degrees, then something in the body has to overcompensate to get that accomplished to the same degree. And if something else is bearing that, then that's energy that's being displaced throughout the body and might not be in an area that is the best for us. So if we end up with a lat strain, or a worst case scenario for a pitcher is a UCL tear of some sort, now we're out for an extended period of time. And being from Delaware, we're typically not in an area where we get, your first, second, third overall pick in a given sport. So, these guys can't afford to be out for an extended period of time because the team itself may be going, okay, we're done with that guy. Let's go sign a guy 3 years younger and see if we can't develop him, with a little bit better of a program than this individual may have. So it really does differ between, for our elite level athletes, and I would consider elite level athletes guys and girls that are playing high level high school or in the college realm, and then on into professional sports if we get lucky enough to get there.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and so one of the next things I wanted to ask Dean, you've again seen athletes, sounds like from about 17 years ago all the way up until you're training right now. And social media is a lot bigger now than it probably didn't even exist. I can't remember 17 years ago.
I mean, it didn't. Well, even when we were in high school, 2006, 2007, that was right when, because I remember getting a Facebook account when I got to Youngstown. So that would have been like 2009.
Yeah.
So prior to then, there was nothing.
You've trained athletes from no social media to now that's all that there is. And I'm just curious as how have you seen that change in the athlete? Because now you can athletes have access to all the information they could ever want. And some of them probably think they know it all when they walk into your facility, right? So how have you seen that change, and kind of what are you doing to mitigate some of those social media things?
Sure. Well, fantastic question, and something that comes up with us all of the time. Is with social media, there is the good and the bad. Right. I think that it helps actually the younger athletes really start to hopefully pick up on some things that might help educate them. However, the way that social media works is if it's crap, you probably have more followers, and the kids want to kind of follow or tag along where the most people
What's that about? What's that about? The crap stuff seems to get all the attention.
It is attention. That's all it is. Social media is just an attention.
And it's it's to me, I can't figure it out. Because there is a lot of quality people or groups to follow that actually provide a lot of really good educational, both inside the weight room or the way that we're doing speed and agility work, but the problem is it's just so clouded with stuff that's like, what and that doesn't even make sense. And for me, being in this in the strength and conditioning field 17 years, I still feel like I learn new stuff every day.
Sure.
So the fact that I can have a 12-year-old come in, it's like, well, Billy Blanks told me, that I need to do 74 push-ups a day and that I'll have big muscles, and it's like, what? Right? Like, what does that even mean? So, we get, I love the social media in its ability to showcase different levels of athletes and where they are and, how they're going. But unfortunately, there is a cloud, or it is clouded with the fact that, you're getting a lot of baloney, for lack of a better term here, keep it safe for the children. But you get a lot of the crap that kinds of has sticking power.
Yeah.
So when we go back to some of the myths of the fitness industry in general, or, and how that has kind of hung on, I want my 11-year-old to lift, it'll stunt his growth. It's like, what? Like, how has that hung on, even through social media, because people were saying that 17 years ago.
Do you see that some of those athletes that come through your facility they don't stay very long? Like, I mean, is there more turnover kind of in people that walk in with that mindset?
Yes and no. I feel like with social media and, how everybody can relate to it is, we're inundated with so much information that we kind of stand on, this is the be all or the end all be all, right? When in reality, so that person may never step foot through the door. Mm-hmm. They may be, hey, I got this program from Rey Mysterio Jr., and WWE fans or WCW fans, but, that this made him look like the Incredible Hulk. Yeah. And, I'm going to use that. So they may never step foot through our door. Right. Or if they do, it may be just very limited, like you said, where, they may be in for a couple of sessions and go, box jumps are too hard. I'm not, right. I don't want to do that, or that's not the best fit for me. So, that's where I would say that there's almost too much information out there, that people stand their ground on things that, have no relevance to their own personal development, that we like to take things that we see and go, I want to look like that. Or
that's what I'm sure you see a ton of.
All the time.
A ton of.
All the time. And it's going, and again, when we watch sports, we're watching professional athletes do their thing, right? So, some of their journeys or where they are within their career, like, the TB12, where it's like lots of bands and, lots of stretching. That's great for a 45-year-old, right? But like as a 14 and 15-year-old, like that's not what he did to get a scholarship to Michigan.
Right.
That's not what he did while he was at Michigan.
Yeah, I don't even think about that stuff. I don't always put an athlete in that this is where they are now and it's why that they're doing what they're doing now. That's a good perspective.
Yeah. And it's, but it's tough, right? Because it's like, well, I want to jump like John Morant. It's like, yeah, me too. But you know what? Like, his genetic predisposition is a little bit different than ours, and which is fine, which isn't like you can never get to that point. Right. It's just going, hey, we need to scale back some of the things that we see, because we start to minimize some of our own achievements for the fact that it's like, yeah, but I'm not so-and-so. I'm not George Kittle. I'm not, dude, your mom is 5'4" and your dad's 5'7". Like, I just don't know why you thought 6'8", 260 pounds. Yeah. Right. It to me, it's like, but that doesn't stop the work, right? Just because we can't be this or we can't be that, we don't have to be the next somebody else. We can be uniquely us and be able to apply that to our individual sport in the best way that we know how, and that's going to be just a tenacity to get incrementally better day in and day out, which is a mindset that's waning quite a bit, because we see those guys and we see an Odell Beckham workout and go, oh yeah, that's, I need to have somebody drop a medicine ball from the roof of my house as I'm laying there and throw it back up with my arms. It's like, no. That he's very good at the made for Instagram stuff. Yeah. Right. But a lot of what he's doing behind the scenes that you don't get to showcase on those social media sites, it's like that is ideally what you need.
Right.
Basic, simple movements and get really, really, really good at them.
Yeah.
So that's the tough part of social media is trying to pull back the curtain on, what these guys did at their time of development that set them up to be, the athlete that they are today, or to stand on Bosu balls and do push-ups on rubber bands when, we don't need that at 16 years old.
So huge. We talk about that in the business world, in the mortgage business, that and my brother always says this, the journey's invisible. So a lot of times people see this in business. They see somebody that's very successful. They have whatever it is, the maybe it's the cars, the house, the business that's running, and the money. And it's like, people, they see that on Instagram. They're like, well, I want that. Right. Yeah, that's great, dude. But this guy put in 30 years or 20 years of experience and hard work that you never saw to get to that point. And I think you're right. We kind of have this cultural thing now where people want that instant gratification, satisfaction, Instagram, whatever. And we talked about it on our podcast about consistency, is that like nobody's going to go out there and lose 30 pounds this week. So if losing weight's your goal, if getting stronger, getting a six pack and getting your body fat down, it's going to be a lot of consistent actions over a longer period of time to where you can progress to that.
Yeah.
And you have to give yourself a little bit of grace to get there. You know what I mean? Don't think it's going to happen overnight.
Well, yeah, that's progression is not a straight line.
Yep.
It's a series of ups and downs and, questions and am I doing the right thing? Am I not? And, some days we're more motivated than others. And that is the part, 100% for what you said is it is invisible, right? It's dealing with some of those demons on your own. And that's a lot of times where that mental toughness comes from, because there is no parachute that says, hey, don't worry about it. Skip your workout today. That's what one side of your shoulder's saying. We need that stronger side to go, hey, we got to get in there. We got to do something. We got to elevate our heart rate. If that is not what's on the program for today, then that's okay, because every day is not going to be Christmas. It's going to take a lot of those days where it's a struggle. It's a personal struggle, and it's if we have a significant other or children or family, everybody's going through something, right? And it's going, okay, how do I make that time for myself? If that is, on your fitness journey, and if weight loss or improving skeletal muscle mass or bone mineral density is a part of some of the things that you're working on, then you're going to have to be a little bit selfish, and you're going to have to focus on yourself, and it takes a lot, it really does. That there are days where you're not seeing the results that you're looking for, and you got to go, hey, I'm gonna put one foot in front of the other, and we're gonna, progression today is not letting this defeat me. So,
And I just got, on a case you probably have some, I just got one more. So I have a terrible lower back. Like, I don't know, that's I don't know why. Probably didn't train it right growing up or whatever, and I see that in a lot of the football players that I have coached over the years. I mean, that just tends to be an area of weakness. So, and I know this is a tough question because you see athletes in all different walks of life, all different ages, types of sports, you name it. But if you could say that, and more often than not, this is an area of the body that I feel like is undertrained or is like a weakness, something that I can always work on as a performance coach, what would that be?
Yep, I would be right there with you, at least in terms of the lower back, and in all of the posterior chain. The posterior chain is the hamstrings, the glutes, and the lower back. Mm-hmm. Not only we tend to want to build what we can see in the mirror. So the way that we describe it is, what you can see in the mirror. So your bench press, your squat, things those are your confidence muscles.
Yeah.
But our back, our lower back, our glutes, our hamstrings, that's our competence muscles. So, those are the real drivers behind, our ability to build a bigger bench. People come on, how do I get a bigger bench press? Build up your back. Nah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, right. They're out.
So,
how do you lose somebody quickly? Even though it's the truth.
Right,
It's
right,
the truth.
100%. But you know, when it comes to the lower back, and this is shoot, I would have to go back. I mean, it was probably back to our time together where just being able to train movements with younger athletes, engaging the lower back is a foreign term to you know, athletes under the age of 15 that don't have a whole lot of prior training. It's just supremely difficult, you know, and the individuals themselves don't really understand it. You know, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, what am I focused on? So if I could, I would be a part of, you know, preschool and kindergarten curriculum is just training the individual kids or in a group of kids on, you know, how do I squeeze my lower back, right? Now, you talk about wiggling your toes, and, you know, pretty early on, we figure out how to do that, and just movement mechanics in general. So, you know, and I don't want to get too long with this because I know that I'm just like boom, 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 going
You got a lot of knowledge, dude. It's good, man.
But when you watch, if you guys have small children, when you watch a child move, it inherently has great mechanics. You know, if I've got a kid under the age of 2 that, you know, you put a ball on the ground and, you know, they're ball, right? And running over to it. But when you watch them, they will literally hip hinge and then squat to pick the ball up.
Yeah.
So, you know, our bodies are inherently able to move the most efficient way. What happens is as we start to go into elementary school and, you know, we're stuck in a chair for 6, 7, 8 hours, is we lose that inherent ability pretty early on, and now we have to retrain it. So, you know, it's people are like, well, what's the best way? I say, I want you to move like a baby, you know, and they're like, what? Like, you know,
I don't remember how to do that.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, I'm going somewhere else. But, you know, ideally it's being able to hip hinge. It's being able to squat, keeping our heels down or our foot flat on the ground. You know, as we press up, we keep the torso upright. You know, all of those things are, you know, become foreign by the time we turn 13, 14, 15, just because we've been kind of, you know, we're all gunked up. Yeah, we got bad posture. You know, we've been going back to the resistance. We've been swimming, so everything is rolled forward. You know, that lower back is an area that, you know, not only strength wise, but flexibility wise through the hips is something that, you know, I would, if I could take everybody and really start to work on that early on, which, you know, we do, a little plug for Titus, that, you know, that we, when you come in there, there's a lot of movements when they are done correctly, and especially early on, can help these kids, you know, and not only in their sport, but as they become adults, and after they become adults, as they become older adults, where, you know, again, as we lose those movement patterns, the further away that we get from being a child, the further away, you know, our body is really able to do the things necessary that's going to alleviate some of that pain. So I would say, you know, if we're above the age of 55, that we're almost dealing with, you know, pretty severe back pain, you know, almost daily. Yeah, and I'm not immune to it. You know, I would be the first one to tell you, like, you know, if I'm sleeping in my bed, I got to have 3 or 4 pillows underneath of my knees, and, you know, that I'm not the ultimate, but I've figured out, like, okay, as, you know, after I get up, after I get to work, I've got to start to incorporate some of the movements that are going to not only work them isometrically or a squeeze and hold, but also do some more strength movements as well as mobility movements, because, you know, that's the only way that I can alleviate some of the pain that I have personally. And then, you know, on top of that, it's understanding that your body is basically pulling up. You know, my top half is pulling up, my lower half is pulling down. So, and we're connected right at the hips, right? So the back is a long, flat muscle. right? So the more time we work on our mobility or stretching in our hips, in our glutes, in our hamstrings, we're going to see some difference, at least in terms of overall pain in that lower back, because that's just typically where pain will manifest itself, when in reality it's a weakness in your adductors or abductors, or, you know, going on down the lower half, or we probably feel more back pain after you do some more squats, heavier back squats, heavier front squats, or deadlifts than, you know, if we were just kind of typically going all upper body movements. So
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
What maybe a thing or two, just a piece of advice for somebody who is maybe they're on their New Year's resolutions, right? And we're now a month into the year, but they're like, you know, they hear this and they're like, what should I do? Like, what's a practical thing that kind of anybody could take and implement and use?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, the New Year's resolutions are a fantastic way to get yourself kickstarted if we can stay motivated. And then, you know, as we backtrack or have the same conversation from 20 minutes ago, it's like whatever you choose, whatever makes you feel like you're in a place where you're getting stronger, you're getting better. And that doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, with me or with our training program. There's a million of them out there. Is finding something that you can be consistent in. And you can really take ownership of your overall well-being.
Love it.
You know, and that's something where that's the toughest part, right? New Year's resolution, when they typically go, you know, they fall by the wayside by, you know, this time really. Yeah. But it's how can I be consistent? How can I challenge and help change myself? And then how am I measuring that to make sure that, you know, it's not something that I rely on somebody else to do, but if I am traveling, if there is a snowstorm, if, you know, God forbid, please, no more pandemics. But you know, if something along that hits, what are we doing for ourselves that we can remain consistent in our approach to help our individual mind, body, and spirit to keep moving forward?
Love that. Yeah, I think, you know, man, we saw a lot of that, with the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
You know, like there was a group of people that, and it's no shot at anybody, because it kind of like, I feel like we were all kind of maybe pushed in that direction, but you know, people that got unhealthy, or they did put on some weight, they kind of lost track of a routine or a daily whatever, they kind of lost that. So, and then you had other people that were like, this is my opportunity to get better. This is my...
That just goes to show, I mean, I don't know to speak too much of the pandemic, but that situation, I mean, it does kind of show you that there's two ways you can go. With that, you can use it as an excuse. You can, you know, and there were, you know, again, health concerns are health concerns. I get that, but there are two ways you can look at the same situation, and you can go one way or you can go the other way.
It's like the guys that you were just talking about on your shoulders. Like, you know, there's always going to be one that's calling you in the direction that's not going to move you forward, and then, you know, that one that's like, hey, you got to push a little bit. Like that's the one we need to give the power to.
That's usually the one that's not as loud. And that's the other one's a lot louder. The one that tells me on Monday when I was supposed to be in Titus. To go to Titus, I had one on my shoulder and it says, stay in bed. And I was like, let's listen to that one. And usually I just outed myself. But I like outing myself because it holds me accountable. Usually I shoot him a text and I'm like, yo, Dean, I signed up this morning, but like, I'm not going to make it. I didn't do that. I signed up on the app and I was like, I saw my dog laying there. I'm like, all right, buddy. That was it. That was it. So.
Couple more questions I have on my mind. One is on like supplementation. So what's your general, just general kind of guidance on that? So if somebody's like, hey, I want to get in better shape. Again, maybe they're on the New Year's kick, or maybe there's somebody that's like, they've put some work in, they do lift, but they're like, I don't know. There's so much information out there about supplements. Sure. Do I need to take protein? Do I need to take amino acids? Do I need to, you know, take whatever else is out there? What's your general take on that?
Well, I would say that that really,
that's the word to get.
That really. So there's a couple of different factors where we are age-wise, chronologically, right? And everybody everybody, as long as your body is able to digest it, needs protein. A high protein based diet is something that I would recommend from top to bottom.
And are you kind of in that, like, I hear like, and online again, I'm a novice, but 1 gram per pound of body weight or per pound of lean body mass?
Yeah, ideal. I mean, I would go even more for most people, depending on where you're at, 1.5 to even 2 grams, where, you're now supplementing the body with a proper amount of protein. It's just some things that we need to take into account is the protein, the ready to drink protein bottle is going to tell you, right? There's 20 grams of protein in here. However, you get you're eating chicken, like chicken or rice for breakfast or for breakfast, for lunch or dinner. Some people. I don't know any of that. But for lunch or dinner, then that is a better form of protein. The ones that come from animals, the ones that we consume that way. But there are plenty of transportation mechanisms of protein, whether that be your ready to drink, if that's a powder, if that's, a beef jerky, turkey jerky, things of that nature. But if we're getting the chicken and steak, then, swordfish, salmon, things of that, like that's where we're getting the high quality protein that our body can not only digest, but that we can get into the small intestine and then to repair the muscles and help build the muscles back to where we need them to be. So high protein diet would be first and foremost. Amino acids, without a doubt, I think is something that can certainly help. I don't find them as being something that are super critical.
Because you're getting that anyway, right? If you're eating enough of the meats, right? That's where amino acids come from. Okay.
Correct. So again, and I would always recommend that is we're getting it from our diet that way. Then supplementing it with a powder that we're pouring into a drink. But again, everybody's a little bit different.
Got it.
But if so. Typically in my realm, I'm going, all right, I got, really 14 to 22 year olds who go, okay, what should I do? Right. I got this pre-workout.
Creatine.
So, with creatine, I tell people all the time that, studies have been out long enough that the worst thing it does is improves your brain function. That's the worst. So I highly recommend protein or creatine to.
And that's something we were kind of always told back in the day, like, don't take it, right?
Yeah, that it dehydrates you, that it does this. You need to drink this much water. Well, I feel like that was just, we weren't as aware of what it can do for you.
Yeah.
Where, I would say for most athletes, again, everybody's a little bit different. Some athletes their kidneys may have a little bit more of a difficult time in supplementation. But, creatine is fantastic, but the major prime movers for them is 8 hours of sleep, right? Which we don't get very much of because these kids are on their phones or on social media till all hours, right?
Yeah.
Correct. But, with 8 hours of sleep, our body will go through 2 cycles of what is called insulin-like growth hormone. So, if we're getting those 8 hours, then our body is going to secrete that. Then we are helping refresh that body, to not only just perform better that next day, because sleep is the number one predictor of success ultimately. Wow. And when we look back and it's like, all the guys that are like, we don't need sleep, we need more work, and it's like, well, more sleep is actually the way that we're gonna not only grow individual or as a human being, but it's going to help us recover and again refresh our system. But water wise, I say that on days where we're not training, we need to drink half of our body weight in ounces of water. Which is, people are like, I drink a lot of water. I'm like, that 16.9 ounce of water, if you are 180 pounds, are we getting 90 ounces? You know,
and are you measuring it again, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because, so I, it's, something I do and have started to do. I did 75 hard. So I did this program where I'm like, I need to finally I never tracked what I ate. I didn't know. I was winging it. I didn't know how much water I drank. But in that program, you drink a gallon of water a day. So I would record it. I would drink a bottle of water and be like, yep, there's 16 ounces, next bottle of water. And I think that's so important that you actually measure this stuff, track it, know how much protein you're getting. Yeah. It's not that difficult. There's apps out there for free. I use MyFitnessPal. It's a free app. I have a little scale that I paid $4 for, and I put my chicken on there. And I'm like, all right, I know I'm getting 6 ounces this meal, but yeah, your water, that's another thing. Measure it.
Yes. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, ultimately, where you're looking at these young guys, if they brought a pen and paper and, as I circle back and do my 180, the elite level athletes are writing everything down.
They know.
What are we doing today? And they might not write down the exercise, but they're writing down the weights that they're using. They're writing down the food that they eat, the time that they ate it, what they consumed with that particular meal. And all of that stuff is just going to give you better insight. So if I wake up tomorrow and I go, I feel like crap. And it's like, you open up your notebook, you go, well, I had Chick-fil-A at 11:30 last night. You know, it's like, now that Chick-fil-A, I'll never tell anybody like, hey, you have one life, so you need to indulge the way that you deem necessary. Is it the best option? No. But you know what? Everybody's human. They're not going to make the best options. But that 11:30 part may be something where we go, you know what? Let me grab a salad if I'm finishing whatever I'm doing at 11:30 then. And hopefully that helps make me feel better. If it does, then we understand the concepts here where you go, all right, I can't eat that later than, 6, 7 o'clock. So yes, being able to measure your water intake is huge. And then, eating things that grow in the ground is in the bright leafy, lots of colors within our diet is huge. And then, that's basically about it. I tell them,
keep it real simple. Yeah.
You don't need pre-workout. That's a crutch that you're utilizing to make you feel a certain way, to feel motivated to work out. You don't need, Megadeth in your AirPods, to reach a new squat height. It's, we need to do all of these things outside of training that's going to help kind of put the best foot forward. But when it does come to adults, then supplementation may change quite a bit. But it's still going to come down to that protein intake being there, the water intake being there. Those two are only going to help us, moving forward. And if people were hydrated the way that they should be or could be, I think they'd have a different perspective on how they feel from day to day, or their energy levels as they're making it through the workday, for sure.
I think you're right.
But going back, just because this has been our most popular episode so far, but we talked with a buddy of ours, Chris, about alcohol, and does the best version of you involve alcohol and drinking? I've been sober now for 33 days. Nice. So since the new year, I haven't drank anything. But what's your take on alcohol, maybe as relates to performance, or, you train college athletes, pro athletes, what's your take on that, just in general?
I would say that alcohol is probably the biggest deterrent to performance. And it's something that, as little as one drink has lasting effects for several days. Me personally, I have my wearable technology is called a Whoop. And a Whoop is something that was created. It's a lot bigger now in the athletic realm, because it does do a lot of tracking. It's an app on your phone. Now, I'm not a good athlete, so, I will track days that I'm going out and having just a couple of drinks. I'm at the age now where, just a couple of drinks will set me back for 3, 4, 5 days. But I see that in the kind of the unseen things, and what I mean by that is my heart rate variability that is measured when I sleep, and it is so low because my resting heart rate is high, but my heart rate variability is low, and that affects my sleep from my REM or your rapid eye movement sleep to your deep sleep, that I'm getting more disturbances throughout the night, and I don't recognize that because it's not waking me up completely that I'm getting up going, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom, but it is something where I recognize my energy level, 3, 4, 5 days after I myself may, have overindulged in a little bit of alcohol. So I think that, my recommendation again is, you need to enjoy the time that you're here on God's green earth, because, tomorrow's never promised. But I also fully believe or have, my belief system is that alcohol has a much longer lasting effect on negatively affecting our performance than we've kind of known or that we really can identify. It's just the little things leading up to whether that be a golf match or just going out back and playing wiffle ball, that consuming alcohol can really put your body in a place where it's much more likely that we tweak or get injured than if we were kind of going about our lifestyle a little bit different and just kind of excluding the alcohol indulgence, because our body also has to break down the alcohol before anything else. Right. So if I have pretzels while I'm, drinking a couple of beers, well, your body's going, forget the pretzels. Let's let that starch around the belly. We need to break this alcohol down because that's poison to our system. So, the longer that this stays around, the more trouble that we're going to have. So, it's really easy to put on, unnecessary or unwanted additional pounds, especially, around the stomach because of our body's job in breaking down that alcohol first and fast.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for that. One other thing that just popped into my mind, and then we'll wrap it up, because I know I feel like we could go all day and asking all these questions, and I love the insight. It's like
Dean's extremely passionate about what he does, and that's one of the reasons I admire you so much. I mean, he's just got tons and tons of knowledge, and you're very passionate about it.
I love it, and I feel like this is we get an open window to like cutting through the BS that you see online, and it's like we have an expert here, so this is awesome. So I hope everyone enjoys this as much as I have. One other question, and just this relates so much to like business and leadership, but the accountability aspect of, like Jason said earlier, like you're the first, guy there. You take pride in your handwriting on the board that you use to give the workouts. How important is it for people, like if you're going to hold other people accountable, just talk on that, like how important it is to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, and 100%. I think that's something that that I learned pretty early on from my mentors, my coaches, is that it may seem sometimes like they are a little overcritical of me or my ability to do certain things, when in reality it was they just were guiding me to that next step and that next level. So I kind of take all of those lessons that I've learned throughout my life, and I've been lucky enough to have had wonderful mentors and wonderful coaches and everything in between. That you go from kind of taking certain things to heart to understanding that individual person may want the best for you.
Right.
So, the accountability is first and foremost, right? Yep. It's being able to answer to the fact of why you do what you do, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. If you're consistent in your approach, you're doing the certain things that's going to help propel us forward, then, we need to be accountable and reward you for that. And, if you are not kind of upholding the standard that what we believe is the path to be as successful as we can and the stepping stone to kind of that next barrier, then, we've also got to be accountable to that. So accountability is tougher now more than ever.
Yeah.
And that's something that we see and that I respect highly from a lot of the coaches that we've had the opportunity to work with, because young athletes don't understand it. Right. They'll go back to the way that I felt. I just didn't speak up about it, but they almost feel like you're attacking me personally.
Yeah.
Because they don't see, that vision of where they need to be or where they want to be. I mean, we've got kids that come in and it's like, I don't want to play for this coach anymore. Why? Well, I'm the best player on the team and they don't like my body language. Like, so are we winning? And it's like, but we got to scale it back. What you don't understand is like, if this is a culture that you're trying to create, right?
Yeah, and you're missing the point there. Like, if how important that is. I remember my dad telling me, and this is, just an awesome thing I remember from when we were playing in Cecilton Little League. So we're not talking like small town. We're talking like there was nobody. Cecilton Little League. We were like 8 years old and driving to a game, and he's like, how you carry yourself is so important. He's like, you never know who's going to be watching. There might be a college coach there. There might be a pro scout that shows up.
Unlikely in Cecilton.
And I'm 8 years old.
Never know.
I'm like 8 years old thinking there's no pro scouts driving to Cecilton Little League to watch us play. But it was, that's the thing, like the lesson that I still remember. I'm like, you never know who's watching. So it's not about, it's all kind of like what you're putting out there. Somebody's always watching.
Yeah.
And it might not be a pro scout, but it might be your teammate. It might be your coach. It might be whoever else. Yeah. And in the real world, it could be your employees, your employer, your customer. It could be anybody, but somebody's always watching.
And that's it. If your personal performance is just, the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
It's all of the other things. How do you conduct yourself? How do you hold yourself? In the sports realm, are you a good teammate?
Yeah.
Right. And that goes right along into business. Are you a good teammate? Are you willing to do the things for that person next to you where they may get all of the accolades, but, you are still a driving force behind that and helping, not only help them, but maybe help push them to be the business person that they are. And all of those things are really instilled in the athletic environment really early on. And, can you work as hard as you can if you don't know where that finish line is? If that finish line is tomorrow and we have we get injured, then so be it. Are we proud of what we've done to that point? Or is that finish line, a state championship, a county championship, a district championship, a national championship, a world championship? When there is no finish line, are you willing to do everything that you can for that person next to you? And that's where, the accountability comes in. It's like, we always want to find a reason why we can't, as opposed to find a reason why we can. And, accountability is so huge and so, I don't want to say bare, but it's becoming less and less. It's it's not a soft generation, right? But it is. What happens from generation to generation is I want to provide for the next generation the things that I didn't have for myself. Well, now we've gotten to that point where I don't want them to fail. Where I go, I want you to run towards failure. I want you to experience failure because that's what's going to take you.
That's where the growth comes.
Exactly. And it's going, hey, I need you to fail so much that you don't lose enthusiasm through a failure. As a matter of fact, failure is that piece that makes you successful.
Yeah.
And once we can get there, then, now you go, okay.
Good things can happen.
Right. That body armor is built. That like you faced people saying no, or that you can, or that you're not viable for this or that. And you go, okay, this is not the right place for me. I'm going to go somewhere where I can be celebrated for my achievements, but also be held accountable when it's necessary to say, hey, you got to pick it up, or that's not the way that we do business around here. And if you see yourself here long term, then we've got to make the adjustments, and then again creating that path. So from where I am, it's accountability, and then going. And here's how we get to that point where, we are extremely accountable to ourselves, to our team, to our business, to our clients, that, you can be a major resource moving forward. If things go well and we continue to grow, then we want you to be a piece of how we grow, and maybe even kind of take on that managerial role, or, moving forward, you may be owning your own and even competing with us. But, if I'm doing my job, I've held you accountable enough that if you go out and you open your own gym, that you compete with us directly.
Yeah.
If you're just a guy, you're just a blip on the radar that just shows up, and you're another one of the gimmicky workout studios, then it's like, I take offense to that, because I didn't do what I was supposed to do with you to help develop you into the individual that can go, I'm second guessing letting that guy go, because now they're out here and they're really putting some pressure on us. They're stepping on our toes quite a bit, or taking a part of this market share, and it's putting us in position to question a lot. That's when I go, okay, but I did what I was supposed to do for the industry as a whole, right? And that's where accountability is. It is all the way around, and it's something that it's tough, but it's well worth it in the long run if we're doing it the right way.
Yeah, and I know that the athletes, the people at Titus, get those messages from Dean and his staff, and Sean, the whole deal. Like that's just another. I think I've plugged Titus several times throughout our first few episodes, and it's because, the program's great, like no doubt about that, but they get a lot of that too, and that's going back to where we started, separating the good to great. That's the aspect that I think a lot of the athletes, people, whatever, don't have as good of a grasp on, and that's maybe why they stay a little bit less relevant, as opposed to being great in whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I think people in general they always want to qualify the work. Like, I'll do it if I get that promotion, or I'll do the work if I get a 6-pack in the next 20 days. Or I'll do it if I get, but like what you're saying is like, well, are you willing to do the work when you don't know if maybe there's not even a finish line?
Yeah.
But are you willing to go 100% and put the work in? So don't qualify, don't qualify the work that you put in. Put it in, right, with your vision on what you want, but don't make that a qualification of doing the work to start with.
Right. Keeping that vision is something that is supremely difficult, but it's something that you personally are going to see well before anybody else. Absolutely. Right. You don't reap the benefits without you, again, individually being able to see it, and then putting that, or getting the fruits of that labor later on. I know when I first started 17 years ago, again, I know I'm dating myself several times I've said that now, but it was coming out of college, coming out of Elizabethtown, which is a decent school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, was, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm working strength and conditioning. And then people would pause and be like, well, what is your full-time job? I mean, it was like, what? Like you don't understand it. And that's where my vision, kind of started. And if we can help this next generation by keeping them accountable to understand their own personal vision, then we never know where this could go. Right. And, when I want to say it was a couple of weeks ago, Shaq tweeted, if my father told me if they're going to pay you $8 an hour, then you give them $13 an hour value, right? That you're always we're creating more value for ourselves than, we may be getting reciprocated for at that particular time. But we're going above and beyond for the people, that we may work with, or in our case, the service that we provide. We want to we want to
over-deliver.
Oh, exactly. We want to over-deliver to the point where it's like, wow, I want to be here. I want to tell everybody else about this, because, we could run, I could come in on Monday and then have, 2 other coaches on Wednesday, Friday, and then we got another location where we'll have, different coaches popping in. But there is, what we call the Chick-fil-A approach, where you walk in, you don't know who's the manager, because everybody is nice, is kind, is smart, is, creating that environment that's conducive for long-term success, if we want to keep those people kind of in the building, and which we do, because if the client themselves is not right for us, then, they'll typically wean themselves out and go, this place isn't for me. It's, they're too positive. They're too upbeat. I want something that's a little bit more, I don't want to say dull, but, a little bit more of like I want to get ripped on every time that I move in this place. It's like, it's not going to be here.
Yeah.
Unless we're talking about the Giants or Cowboys. I don't really want it.
Love it. Well, that's a great place to wrap it. Dean, thanks so much, man. This has been awesome. I feel like we need to have you on again, because we could just keep going and going. But hope everyone took something away. I think there's a lot of practical advice here. There's definitely a lot of mindset advice and stuff you can apply to your business, to your job, to your family, to your relationships. This stuff all ties together, which is why we talk about it so much on here, is that, it all does tie together. So thanks again, everybody. Please share the show. Jason, you want to mention something?
Anything you want to plug for Titus, Instagram handles or anything like that?
Oh yeah, where do we find you?
Oh yeah, give us if you you're on the social media sites, which I assume that we are, Titus Sports DE on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you're on there, and you want to give us a follow, please do. And we try and put out as much of information in regards to what we have going on at Titus in Wilmington, which is located at the 76ers Fieldhouse, or the Chase Fieldhouse as it's called now. And then we also have a location in Newark on the corner of Red Mill and Ruth R, just 5 minutes away from the University of Delaware. So, thank you guys for having me. I had a fantastic time.
We appreciate it, dude. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Yep. See you guys.
Thanks.
See ya.